I must confess, I have not been watching House of the Dragon. I have not watched House of the Dragon. I've only watched 2 episodes, and quite honestly, I don't know about everyone else. Then again, everyone has the right to their own opinion, has the right to feel what they feel. But I feel the show has dragged. The first season I watched only because it was enough to hook me to see what would happen despite not being like, oh my god, I have to know what happens. I love this show. It was one of those things like I wasn't interested in the show itself, but I was interested to see what would happen. Much like George and Mary, or Mary and George. When I first saw the trailer for that show, I was like, okay, I have to see. This is interesting. I have to see what happens. And as I was watching it, I was just like, this is so uninteresting. But I'm interested enough to keep going because I want to see what happens. Like, we knew what happens. We just wanted to see how it happened. Yeah, so House of the Dragon, I watched the first 2 episodes of season 2 and have not brought it to my attention to watch the third episode. Yeah, that's about it. I haven't really been anything. Yeah. But I have watched the season finale of season 2 of Interview with a Vampire. That show, that season did not disappoint at all. I stayed from beginning to the very end because I wanted to see what would happen. Because, like I said, when I watched the first season, when I heard that they were making Interview with a Vampire into a TV series, I was very apprehensive about it because usually TV shows that are based off a film, they usually do not work out. And for examples, Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon was turned into a show. And although it lasted for 3 seasons, it didn't last very long. What was it? Rush Hour. Rush Hour did not do very well. After 1 season, it was cut. Yeah, Blade. Blade was turned into a TV series on Spike TV, and after 1 season, it was axed. So very, very few shows last. Teen Wolf, although it was loosely based off the movie, but it didn't have the same characters like Rush Hour and things like that. That lasted for a good 7 seasons, and I have all those 7 seasons. And it was the same thing with Scream. I only watched the first season. I didn't watch the second or third season because the third season, VH1 got the rights, and it had a very different tone than the first season. The second season, I'll admit I did not watch, only because it was like, it wasn't enough to grab my attention to watch it. I will admit that. But they lasted a little bit longer. But yeah, usually when you make TV shows for movies, they don't last very long. I'm sure there's a whole ton of other shows that were based off the movies and didn't do too well. Rather than making a reboot of a TV series such as Magnum PI and Hawaii Five-O, or MacGyver, things like that. But like I said, I was very apprehensive when I first heard that Interview with a Vampire was coming to town, especially with the route that they were taking. Now, at first, I just thought that this was not going to last because a lot of shows on the CW, with the direction that they were taking, it didn't really last very long because some of which was more unfamiliar. Like a lot of people were it was actually mostly unfamiliarity, that no one really was familiar with it, and others who were familiar with it, the reboot, like what was it, 1440, which was a reboot of the show back in, I think, the early 2000s, mid 2000s, which, believe it or not, that was axed after 1 season, and so was this reboot. I think mainly because of the tone that they went with, and that actually lost people. You had two other shows that, again, people were not familiar with. One, I was not familiar with it because I didn't know it was a comic. I thought it was an all-new show. And then this other one was based on a book. But of course, no one's familiar with it because the book was published in 1901. And of course, they put a modern twist. But again, the tone that they were going for didn't seem to meet a lot of people, which is why it got axed. Believe it or not, that show, Tom Swift, got axed after the 5th episode aired. So it was mainly almost like Do No Harm. Do No Harm, after the 2nd episode was aired, it got axed. But they had to run all of the 13 episodes. And they were even doing it on Sci-Fi, hoping that Sci-Fi would catch on to it, would grab it. But unfortunately, it got axed. That was a good show. I actually enjoyed Do No Harm. They left us on a heck of a cliffhanger. Dang. But yeah, so like I said, I was like, okay, I don't think this is going to last. I think it's going to get axed before the season's even done. Things like that. Also, it's like, why are you going that direction? What for? And like I said, I did watch a limited time behind the scenes look on YouTube of Interview with a Vampire. And I was like, okay, maybe this will explain why they're going the route they're going. And then when they were explained why they were doing it, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. All right, I get it. I see why you're doing it that way. All right, I get it. I got you. I hear you. Ended up watching the first episode. Oh my God, I was so happy because it wasn't forcing tones. It wasn't putting tones just to put tones. It wasn't forcing it down your throat. Everything was natural. It had a natural flow. It was just like, you're Louis, you're Lestat, you're Claudia. You know, it was like all I saw was the characters and the story. That's all I saw, and that's all you want to see. You want to see the characters. You want to see the stories. And the casting was done to a T. Jacob Anderson and Sam Reed, they did such a good job of portraying their characters that you don't see them. When you see them and doing interviews, you don't see them. You see the characters because that's when they did such a good job. So, yes, I'm happy. I will admit I never read the books. Only because I didn't know it was a book series. I didn't know it was a huge 13-part book series. The only books that I knew of was Interview with a Vampire and Queen of the Damned. Only because of the movies. I had no idea that it was an expanded franchise, expanded book series. So Daniel's a vampire. It didn't look like it. His eyes didn't look... Well, then again, it was dark. But then again, his eyes didn't look like they changed. They still look like the bright eyes that he has. You know, I wonder, does that mean something? Does that mean something? If a human becomes a vampire and their eyes don't change, does that mean anything? Like, because obviously the vampire side brings out what's already there. Like Lestat, it brought out something that was already in him. Does that mean anything to you guys? If anyone who's watching Interview with a Vampire and are familiar with the books and stuff, let me know. Because, like I said, I haven't read the books. I've seen the movies. I will confess that. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, just a question. Do the eyes of a vampire change when a human becomes... Because Daniel's eyes didn't look like it changed. To me, it didn't look like they changed. They still looked like his normal color eyes. Unless a vampire can change in and out of their eyes. Can they do that? Because Louis and Lestat, they never did. Claudia never did. Ahmad never did. He just put contacts in them. Then again, perhaps Daniel put contacts in his eyes. I don't know. It's just a question. It's a question. Yeah. And not only that, it actually took a different turn. So it looks like Armand is still the maker of Daniel, just like in the books. But on a total different reason, because Louis says, I'm sorry about that. I should not left you alone with him. I should have made sure you left before. So that means out of anger, Armand turned him into a vampire because he blames Daniel for ruining this little charade, this little love story that has been trapping Louis in a mind prison for so long. And it turns out Lestat saved him, not Armand. He just took credit. So, yeah. And I want to know, did Louis get caught? And are Lestat and Louis really back together? If so, do we get to see them in season 3? Because I hear season 3 it was announced. I heard that it was announced. So, yeah. I can't wait. If the season 3 is coming, I cannot wait. Because I really want to know what happens. I really want to know how Daniel's going to be incorporated. I really want to know if Louis is still alive. I want to know if it's now going to take, because now you hear about the secret order, the Trebuchet, the Tengis. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Is it gonna now take the route of Queen of the Damned? Is Lestat gonna be a rock star? Because he can sing. So is he gonna be a rock star now? Because I know in Queen of the Damned you see Magnus, but Magnus died because he threw himself into a fire, supposedly, according to Lestat. Then again, Lestat isn't necessarily a reliable narrator. But then again, we don't know what route. I don't know what route they're gonna take. So hopefully, because now Claudia's dead. We knew Claudia was going to die. So the question is, what happens next? Now that the interview is over and the past tale has been told, what next? What is now in the present? What is now going to happen in the future? That's my question. But yeah, I can't wait to see what happens next. I can't wait.